Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the YouTube Creators Hub podcast. Dusty here, the host of the show, joined today by Bryan and Amanda Lukasik. They are the creators behind Mayta the Brown Bear over on YouTube. It's the name of their channel. And we're going to talk about the journey that got them to where they are now. If you don't know what Mayta is, which I don't expect you to unless you have kids or you've consumed their content, it's a gentle, handcrafted, mindful learning program, kind of a show made by parents for preschoolers ages 0 to 5 or around that area, and it's created by the husband and wife team that I have with me here today, Bryan and Amanda. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing good. We're doing good. We're happy to be here. We can't promise you what's going to happen. You're our first podcast, but we're happy to be here.
It's going to go great.
It's going to go great.
It is going to be wonderful. I'm super excited. Okay, so we are going to start with just the origin story of the channel. So Mayta the Brown Bear, which, by the way, I love the channel. I love the channel banner. I love the logo, and I've watched a bunch of videos that you guys have produced, and Mayta is just is precious. It's amazing that you guys have created this character, and it's really helpful for parents. So can you guys, whichever one of you want to take this kind of first, tell us the origin story of Mayta the Brown Bear and the YouTube channel?
I'll take it. I'll take that one. So we had our son in 2015, and we tried to keep, the 2 years and under screen time rule, but I mean, sometimes it was just like, you had to go to the bathroom or you needed like a hot cup of coffee. You wanted your coffee hot. And it was like, so we started watching cat videos on YouTube, and like funny cat videos was our son's beginning.
He loved them.
Obsessed. Yeah. And then it started to feed us other stuff. But then we realized that the stuff we were getting was like AI generated sort of robotic content. Like it wasn't a real person's voice. And our son kind of like zombied out in front of it. And we're like, that's not great. And both coming from a entertainment background, we were like, maybe we could create something that was more mindful and thoughtful towards what, kids should be or would benefit them to watch when parents need a break.
Yes. So yeah. And so we started it all started with our son. We would tell stories at night, and he made up this story about this bear who lived in the forest, and he named him Mayta, and it just kind of like popped in my head like, well, this could be it. So then we created a little puppet, this guy back here, by watching videos on YouTube, and then we built 2 sets in our garage, and then we kind of planned out our content strategy, and we started filming. And we popped it up on YouTube in 2018, at the end of 2018. Yeah. And, you spend all this time strategizing and doing research. And like, we really spent a lot of time as first-time parents then really researching what kind of communication skills are beneficial to a child at that very young age. They say, 0 to 3 are very pivotal years. And so we kind of took all little pieces of information that we found throughout all your books and kind of plugged them into the scripts. And that's kind of how we created the show.
So there was this book. I actually have it because it was like instrumental. It was called Right from the Start. And she talks about Mr. Rogers and how, like, if you absolutely needed screen time, she has this whole story about her daughter of like, eye contact and slow and simple and repetitive was the key for little kids' brains to follow along in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. So that was like the biggest basis for how we came up with the show.
Yeah. There's like, if you want us to keep talking, there's like 4 or 5 pillars that we tried to be consistent with when we write our scripts. The first thing is to be is small and simple. Like our set is very small. It's very simple. The colors are very simple. The second thing is consistency. We really try to, when we go through our story, be consistent in what we do. Kids know what's going to happen first, second, third, and fourth. And what we've learned is when you do that, kids then become, they feel more safe. They feel like they're in a safe environment. They trust the person that they're listening to, and their anxiety levels, whether they're there or not, they start to kind of drop. And then when that happens, they can really start to listen. And then that leads to ultimately being really engaged with the content that they're trying to process on the screen. So that's kind of like what we took
The pillars.
the pillars that we kind of install into our content that are very important to us. So it's not everyone's cup of tea, but yes, we have reasons. Yeah.
So I definitely want to break that stuff down, but I want to just say this before we even get started. You know, you're not even 100 videos into this thing yet. You're just under 82,000 subscribers. So obviously you found some success. You've tapped into something here that parents and people who have kids need and enjoy. But not everyone could do this, right? Like, it takes personalities. It takes people who are willing to put themselves out there, who are willing to be wacky or zany, right? Because I have watched the videos. I have a 4-year-old. I have an 8-year-old, and we try to be very diligent with their screen time as well. But as you mentioned at the top, it is very hard to just say no iPad, right? Because every kid their age is consuming something at some point in time.
Yes.
So, you know, as a parent, it's just your job to be the manager of that. And so when people are putting out positive content like you guys, it's just fantastic. So I want to talk about just the experience you have. Now, I know that we talked off air that, Amanda, you are an actress, and so you kind of have that background. And Bryan, this is not your full-time gig either. So can you speak on creating a character from scratch? Obviously, it came from your kid's brain, right? So you used the imagination to create that. But how hard has it been, and what have been the things that you've implemented to create this character from the ground up to be something that people love and is enduring to people, and they want to come back and watch over and over again?
Yes. I think the most important thing is to treat kids like they are who they are. They're humans, right? I think a lot of times we tend to get over exaggerated and we tend to talk down, but we really wanted to step back and look into the camera. Who is that camera? It's our son, and we're talking to him. How would we talk to our son? How do we treat our son? How do we want our son to interpret the information that we're giving him? So instead, we do have our fun, silly moments, but it's really about connecting with our viewers, I would say, and talking to them like they are real human beings. And I think that's really important.
Yeah. And then from like the character's perspective, like, so my character's name is Miss Y. And I'm a scientist who works at the Curiosity Lab in the city. And we came up with that because Mayta and B, his character, are in the forest. And so we kind of, you know, we're going with that sort of like age-old sort of trope of like the city and the forest. But then my character, we kind of worked with like, oh, she should be a teacher. Could I be, you know, we were trying to figure out what would be the thing that could allow us the widest scope of topics, right? And then so we came up with a scientist, and then of course I am a little kooky. I can tell. And so I just it's not that far of a stretch for me to be like, hey, you kids, but still keep it sort of grounded. Like as much as like we want to like have fun, like we try to keep it very grounded so that we're not I don't know, too over the top. But
right.
So
and a female scientist is
being a female scientist was important too.
Oh, yes, I love that. Doing kids content on YouTube in 2023 is not what it used to be because of rules and regulations. I have a ton of people who come through my community and they want to do kid related content. Can you guys give some advice to those creators? What things have you put in place to make sure you're still able to make money, to make sure your videos are not getting flagged? All of this content obviously is yours. You own it because, you know, Mayta is your creation. But because it is targeted towards kids, there's a lot of hoops you kind of have to jump through. Can you speak on all of that?
Yes, most definitely. I think the baseline for anything that, you know, anyone is doing, whether you're doing kids content or main, is that you offer something of value. You know, what are you giving these little kids on the other side of the screen? You know, it's really easy to pop things into a montage and throw music, but like, what is the true value? And I think our content, it centers around issue. Like, yeah, we have fun sometimes, but we like try to have an issue or a problem or a situation that we can talk through and give guidance and true value to the kid at home. So like an example, I would say we got a message from a parent and she was like, my son, when he would color or paint, he would always get very frustrated when he would mess up and he'd throw it in the trash. He's like, after watching your videos, because you mentioned that there's no mistakes in art, he suddenly gained this like sense of courage, and he was able to then finish his art and put it on the wall and be proud of it. So like that's value. That's giving that kid something of value. And that's what we strive for in every episode.
Yeah.
Also quality. I mean, I like quality. I think I'm an over perfectionist in that area, and I can go a little bit too far, and I have to bring it back and be adaptive and be resilient and not have, it doesn't all have to be perfect. That's where she steps in, because she helps me have like,
I'm like, it's fine.
So,
But I mean, you can speak to also like the hoops, like for YouTube, like what we did jump through. Like we initially didn't monetize our channel for the first year.
Yeah, it was
because we thought, we were like, you know, we don't want our viewers, like the whole point of our channel was to not have you know, commercial content, right? We were like anti-commercials.
We just thought it was a moral choice.
Yeah, it was a moral choice, but then we realized it like killed us in the algorithm.
Yeah, it really hurt us, really a lot. Like if I could go back, that's the one thing I would have turned that on right away. Very minimal. Yes.
Let me stop you there. Explain that. Like go deeper into that. What you just said. Like you wish you guys had kind of. It's just unpack what you just said, basically.
Yeah,
I think it's a really good what you're saying.
Yeah, so when we were able to be monetized, we chose not to click yes. We chose not to sign up, and because we thought in our heads, and we still believe it, but
we didn't want ads playing on our content.
Yeah, we thought that wasn't appropriate for kids at a very young age. But as you go through this process and you start to build your business, you realize you can't create the content without some sort of revenue stream coming in. So I think, you know, you can look at the graphs and the analytics and you can see it's like off, turn down, and then you start to grow. So that's a big, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
You think that when you monetized and turned the ads on, or not think, you know that you saw a difference in the way that the algorithm handled your videos.
Yes.
I think so. I mean, we'll never know, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you'll never know, but
I think so. But even more so than the growth, it was when we started to have some revenue come in, we were able to do more things with the show. So it's a necessity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the revenue and being able to monetize with the AdSense and the partner program being directed towards kids, what do you have to do to make sure you can be approved for those ads? Can you tell us that?
Well, yeah, it's it goes back to value and quality. Really, you have to realize that like what you're showing on the screen can be flagged at all points. So like if you're doing a video about tools, you know, is that saw a good choice? No, it's not. Like that should not be in your video. Are you showing behavior where maybe the
unsafe?
Unsafe. Exactly. Is the character like coloring on a wall to try to be mischievous? No, that's not okay. Like we can present those problems and have solutions, but like we don't want to give that kind of behavior to our audience because it will get flagged. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to the YouTube side of things, you know, you get a lot of your videos are getting hundreds of thousands of views. I know by having small children, the way they consume YouTube is different. They may get on a video and watch it 5 times.
Sure.
And I used to always get jealous as a YouTube creator. My wife would give me a hard time. Let's just say my daughter, who is really big into Adley, which is a big kids YouTube channel. I mean, they have an empire. They're making tens of millions of dollars a month probably. They would have like probably 8 or 9 ads in their 30 or 40 minute episode, and a lot of them would be unskippable. And I would think to myself, I would tell my wife, they're making a killing off of this. And then my daughters would go and they'd watch it again, you know, and they go back and they watch these videos. And so I guess my question to you guys is, knowing the consumption habits of kids, do you change the way you produce or create content? Because I do see a lot of videos that you do are over like the 45-minute mark, which allows you to place more ads in the videos. Are these things that you think about as a business, as business people?
Yes, I think at the true heart of it, we have a 22-minute video in our heads, and there's a structure, and it's everything. Like I said in the beginning, it's like first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. But you also have to be adaptive on the platform. I've also realized that when you show a thumbnail of a volcano exploding and you go to something else, people are going to click away. So there are some videos where you see the thumbnail and you click on it and dive right into it, getting to the activity right away. That's really beneficial on the platform because of like how people consume, you know, videos on this platform.
And to be fair, we also saw like all the big, you know, kids content people were doing, you know, they'd have 45-minute banners, 60-minute banner, like, and I understood like my kid sometimes, you know, it's like, I want to watch that whole thing because it says how long it is. So we were like, oh, we should be like doing compilations. We should be doing putting videos together.
Do you also think, I don't mean to interrupt you, but do you also think as a parent too, you see that and you're like, man, I'm not going to have to change this thing for like an hour. I can put this on there for 45 minutes and it's going to keep there. It's 45 minutes. Cause I know a lot of the frustration with my youngest daughter is she loves to watch slime. And there's this, I've been trying to get this lady on my podcast for probably the past year. My daughter calls her the octopus lady. And basically all she does is ASMR, where she eats these like really exotic animals like octopus and sushi, and she'll always finish it with a Coke. And she's a lady from Asia, and so she has a little bit of an accent, and she's hilarious. And her videos get millions of views within the first 48 hours, and she's killing it. But she'll put like 45 minutes, 60 minutes, kind of like what you guys are talking about. So I do think the parents see that, and they're like, I'm not going to have to flip back and forth between this next video and that video, right? And so I think that's something for sure. Let's talk about monetization for a minute. First question, how many views a day are you getting on the Mayta channel?
I wrote it over here. It varies. It's maybe on average 250,000 views every day. And then, yeah, go ahead.
So 250,000 views, which for those listening, they're going to say, I don't know if you guys know how good that is. That is a lot. That is a lot of views. You guys are, I mean, that's 250,000 views a day, which is fantastic. Now, what you found, I'm sure to be the case, and I found this on my channel, views don't always equate to subscribers, right? Especially on kids' channels. Eventually, they're going to happenstance slap that button maybe by accident, or their mom does, to come back and watch your content later. But in order for you to monetize and make money, you need the views. You need the views to go up, not necessarily the subscribers. The subscribers are great. Maybe they help you with brand deals. But can you guys speak on average, like just with the ad program and the partner program, like how much money are you making, you know, on average per day with those types of views?
Oh, I mean, I don't know per day. I would say it's not what you think. It's under 5,000 a month. So we try, you know, we do our best, and we are growing, and we're seeing that number grow. And I think YouTube is doing a really great job at identifying smaller channels and like really trying to promote their content. We found our content on the homepage and suggestion bar all the time. So I think they are really doing a great job. And because of that, the revenue starts to grow a little bit. So, but we do have other streams to kind of help keep this whole ship going. You know, we sell merch, and we have a Patreon page, and etc. So yeah, so the goal is, sorry.
But yes, but like those views don't equate necessarily to you see, 500,000 views a day, but it's not equating to, you know, thousands and thousands of dollars.
For example, the reason why I wanted you to answer that question, I get anywhere from 35 to 50, sometimes 60,000 views in a day, which for a tutorial channel is really good. And again, my views are really, the way I see it is, if I can create more how-to videos, let's say I do one every day, so 7 a week, 30 average per month, whatever, obviously my views are going to go up. I know that, but as my family has grown, I've kind of taken off some time and things like that. But with the views that I get, averaging anywhere from 45,000 views a day, I'm making about the same per month as what you guys are making with almost 4 or 5 times the views. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, why is that? Well, when I do a tutorial on Photoshop, the cost acquisition of that customer of buying Photoshop, that ad that's being placed on my video is going to make a lot more money than, say, some 3-year-old whose parents is in the other room, right? So you've got to understand the differences of where. So understanding how to monetize outside of the partner program is important. So you mentioned Patreon, you mentioned brand deals. Talk about that as far as like, what are some other ways you're monetizing? So to kind of dive deeper into that.
Yeah, I mean, the main source is merch, selling t-shirts. We also have a book on Amazon that people are loving. It's a, you know, first time book for a kid who's just a very young, at a very young age.
A young kid.
Yeah. And
Under
Patreon.
one is what we need.
Yes. Sorry.
Patreon. And I mean, you can also, you know, license out to other apps. So
yes,
we've
we have
done that
a couple
too.
Licensing deals that we've done as well, and that's been very helpful.
So explain the licensing deals. What do you mean by that?
So they're all different types of licensing deals. Some are for a fixed, you know, 1 year, 2 year. You give them your content and they put it on their app. And again, the licensing, the money side of it, it can be a fee per hour of content, or it can be based on views. So it's depending on what you kind of whatever contract you kind of sign together. So yeah.
And what apps is that, like Kids BTV, places like that?
Kids BTV,
Yes.
Happy Kids?
Yes, Happy Kids, yes.
Yeah.
And are you able to put the same videos you have on YouTube on those apps, or is it separate, different content?
They're the same videos, but they are they are the same videos. Yeah. There's a little editing done to make it nice and tidy, a nice little package.
We call it an evergreen.
Yeah. To make it a little bit more evergreen. Yeah.
So I'm glad you mentioned evergreen. I love that word. I'm all of my content's evergreen. It's how I've kind of modeled my channel. It's what I love. I love doing content that's going to still be working for me, you know, in 2025, right? And your videos do that, right? Like, why, you know, your most popular video, it's got 17 million views, you know, mixing colors, science experiments for kids. Why would that ever go out of style, right? Like, why would YouTube ever stop kind of promoting that? I mean, kids are always going to, my daughter in particular, my young daughter, loves mixing stuff. She loves making messes and experimenting and doing things like that. And so a video like that will always resonate with her regardless of the generation, right? So that video's lifespan, you know, you uploaded it 4 years ago, I assume. Does that video still get some views to this day?
Yeah,
I would assume.
Still our top one.
Still number one.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's still getting views 4 years later. That's the kind of thing that as a YouTube, as a creator, you're thinking about in the back of your head. So I did want to mention that. What do you think you guys have done that has helped you the most? I'll start with Bryan and then go to you. What do you think's been the one thing that you can look at and say, this has been that one thing that has kind of taken our channel to the next level? We've seen the most kind of growth from this thing.
I think it's, I keep going back to value, but like when we started, I didn't realize how impactful the channel would be to so many different families for so many different reasons. I think that, you know, we really want to try and create content that connects with people and have characters that they can trust. And we put up a lot of thought into our scripts. We sit down and we research and we write and we rewrite. So it's not something we just turn the camera on, although some channels that do that work well, extremely well, and are fantastic. We
have a different approach.
Have a different approach. Yeah, we really like to, you know, do the research and present communication techniques that we know that work. That doesn't mean it always works, because it doesn't. We're A/B testing all the time. We're pivoting. We're getting feedback. You know, when we first started, I really wanted Mayta the bear, the puppet, to be nonverbal. I wanted kids to be able to connect with that and create his language in their heads. But then about 2 years in, we kept getting this feedback, like, you have to make that bear talk. He's got to talk. And so I struggled with it, but, you know, you have to adapt. And so then I made the bear talk, and I made him talk way too much, because then we had the parents come back and they're like, the bear, I can't stand the bear. He's talking way too much. So now there's four things that he says: a yes, a no, a happy, and an exciting sound. They're still very vague, because I want the kid listening to make up his own conversation in his head, to really use his imagination to drive what Mayta is saying. So things like that, you know.
I would say, at least from what I've heard from you, like, as something very specific that I think helped the channel, was thumbnails, was his remaking of our thumbnails.
Explain that. Do a deep dive into that, the thumbnail side of things, because you guys do have great thumbnails.
Yeah.
Thank you. I had nothing to do with it, but they're beautiful. But like
yeah. I mean, back when we started, it was a screen grab of, a shot in the thing. And then as I started doing more research and talking with other creators, I realized that I was really doing it all wrong. And we needed to simplify the thumbnail. We needed to create curiosity. We needed to match what was showing to what they see. I still struggle with that a little bit, but I'm getting better at that. And they need to be clean so that no matter what device that you can, no matter how small it is, you can see what's happening. Yeah. And there's also an element of branding in there. We always have the logo on the left-hand side, so you instantly know it's us, whether you can see us or not. And I'm moving towards a solid background all the time. So photoshopping backgrounds out and putting us, around, and then maybe a little small, I'm sorry, Amanda. I just covered her face. Maybe a little small like character or something in the foreground just to give it a little depth, but very simple.
Mr. Beast says no open mouths.
Yeah, you go. Yes, I'm telling you.
We had so many. We're like,
I know. It's funny, those things that are trendy that people think work, and then next thing you know, somebody real popular does it, and next thing you know, everybody's face is like wide open, shocked face, right? It's interesting to me. Everything that you just mentioned about thumbnail, that could teach a course, just exactly what you said, because creating curiosity is, I have clients who get 3, 4, 5 million views a day, and some of those clients are people who are able to create and produce thumbnails every single time that make people think. It makes them say, well, what is it about that video? I'm going to click to find out. You got to think the thumbnail is the cover to your book, and so trying to get people to open that book is our goal. Like, what's going to increase our CTR, click-through rate, and what you mentioned about creating curiosity, keeping it clean. I mean, listen, keep it clean. I hate thumbnails that have so much text on them that you get on your phone and you're looking at all these different angles and you can't read what it says. And I think for kids content, it needs to be colorful. It needs to be draw their attention of like, oh, I want to watch that. I talked about the octopus lady, and she does these great thumbnails of like a big picture of her, like with this giant octopus. And it's like, it's just, it's just interesting. It's curiosity. So,
yeah.
As far as the YouTube side of things, we talked about thumbnails, we've talked about monetization. What's something that, we'll start with you, Amanda, that you look back at now that you've been doing this for a few years that you wish you would have done sooner, that you're like, man, if we just would have done this sooner, we would have been, leaps and bounds farther than we are now?
Okay, besides monetization,
rolls out our list.
Well, I mean, that's the one thing is, I think we've already mentioned it, but it's diving right into the thing that we show. Mm-hmm. So for a long time, we would open on the bear or on Bryan reading a book and the color of the book, and then Mayta would come out of the cave. He would wake up from his nap, which was so precious,
because that's what our son was doing at the time. Yeah, it's very.
But now we're looking back like, oh my gosh, like we'd have a volcano. It's a great example on the thumbnail, and then you'd click on it and it'd be him reading a book. And I think people, would be like, wait, what? Like, where's the volcano? But it took us about 6 minutes to get to the volcano. So now what we're trying to do, it does still pain us because it's breaking our structure a little bit. But when there's a volcano on the thumbnail, you click, he's in the middle of the experiment. If we're mixing colors, I'm in the middle of doing it. Or if it's a sink or flow, it's happening when you click on, right when we're starting it. We're not giving this like long intro to it.
Because what happens is, people, they click for that volcano and they don't get it, and then they go away, and then your retention and your watch time, all those stats just start diving down.
So I did the same thing. 7, 8 years ago, I had this really cool intro designed that I thought like technology people would love, and it was it had like electricity, and it would come in, and it was this intro, and I was like, it's like 11 seconds long, and I got some coaching early on, and the guy told me, he goes, listen, I know you may be in love with this thing, but it needs to completely go away. I said, so what do you mean? Do I just need to shorten it? He said, no, you don't need to have an intro at all. You just need to open it. And if your tutorial is how to download YouTube videos on mobile, you need to go straight into how to download YouTube videos on mobile. You don't need to sit here and wax poetically about how the reason you're doing this is because of this or what. And he's like, no, you get to the point. And he's right. My CTR, not only did my CTR go up because of the thumbnail improvements, but my retention and watch time went up, which people don't get on YouTube. Watch time and what I call TOS, or time on site. That's important. YouTube notices when somebody leaves your video, how long do they stay on the next video? They all these things are
Oh,
kind
they're
of
yeah.
go into it, right? So
you know what I compare it to is
go
like
ahead.
recipes.
Mhm.
You know, when you go to a recipe online
Yes.
and no, and you like, they finally realize like they now have a jump to recipe. But
Oh, I
before
see.
you had to read like this whole story where the woman or whoever's
Yes.
writing the recipes, like, when I was 12 and my
Yes.
mom did, and you're like, I just want to know how many onions
Yeah,
or
I love how Amanda got Southern there when all of a sudden it's the recipe. She took it straight south. That was fantastic.
She's from Kentucky.
I'm from Kentucky.
Yes. Oh, you are from Kentucky.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Kentucky girl out in LA.
Yes.
I have a
Yes.
question.
Yes.
As we close out this interview, you guys have been great. I could ask you a ton more questions. We'll have to do a part 2 of this maybe in a year
Let's
or
do it.
so. I love doing
All right.
follow-up interviews. My last question for you guys is this. Do you ever go to bigger channels in your niche and look at what to do and what not to do? So do you go to like Blippi or Miss Rachel and you see the things that they're doing and you're like, do you ever apply some of those things or maybe stay away from them because of that? Obviously, we're not going to mention I mentioned those two because my oldest daughter and my niece absolutely loves Blippi.
Yeah, and we
and they
Blippi
love,
was
I mean,
big
Miss
in our
Miss
house.
Rachel, that lady drives me insane. I mean, if I have to hear her sing one more song, I'm gonna just, it's just insane. I love Miss Rachel, but man, you can only take so much, right? So, but I'm sure if I watched you guys, I mean, I've fallen in love with you guys in the past 45 minutes, but I'm sure if I watch one of your videos 18 million times, it's gonna be like,
oh
man,
yeah,
what's
so
gonna
we get
happen?
it.
So did you ever do that?
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, Blippi was the biggest inspiration for us. You know, I kind of followed or tried to dissect his business model and how he did what he did so fantastically. He was kind of like a guide for me because, as you know, when you start a channel, there's really no book. There's tons of videos, yes, but like it can.
But he was like
so
the OG. I mean, he was like the OG of.
I
like,
would love to have him on the podcast. I think he would be such
God.
a great interview to have. But I just look at your channel and I knew what your answer was going to be there because, you know, imitation is the greatest form of flattery, right? Like you can see that. And when I watched your videos, I watched a couple of them last night. I had my daughter with me and we watched a few of them together and she really enjoyed them. And I'll say that, you know, you guys are great storytellers. And I think first and foremost, to create kids content, you've got to capture their attention.
Thank you for saying that. That's what I've been looking for. I keep saying value, but it's the story. What
it is.
Yes.
It is.
So thank you for saying that.
I worked at the YMCA when I was 14, 15, all the way till, you know, my mid-20s when I got into content creation. And I was really good at capturing large groups of kids and keeping their attention for a good amount of time because I could make up these stories and I'd add sound effects and I would add a little bit of theatrics and a little bit of drama.
Wow.
And I can still do it to this day. And I'll say that what you guys do on YouTube is you're capturing that essence. You are telling a story with this bear and you're not only educating, but you're storytelling, and it keeps, because you can't go all education, because if you do, the kids are going to be bored to death and they're never going to watch it. You can't go all entertainment because the parents will never let the kids watch it. So you've got to have a good combination of the two and be good storytellers. And I think what Blippi does is not only is he hilarious and zany and crazy and fun, but he combines those two at a great balance. And I think that what you guys have done is you've done that as well. So
awesome.
thank you guys so much for being on the show today. I'm going to give you both an opportunity. All of your links will be down below in the show notes. It's Mayta the Bear on YouTube, but the website will be down below as well. If you have kids, I highly recommend go check out what they got going on. It's awesome. But I want to ask you guys to give some final parting words for people who are on this journey, whether they're starting on YouTube or they got 1 million subscribers trying to even grow from there. We'll start with you, Amanda, and then we'll go to you, Bryan. What would you guys say to those people?
I'd say, well, for the people starting out, patience. It takes longer than you think it will. And it takes more work than you think it will.
Yeah.
A little more dedication than what it seems. I mean, that the reality of it versus what we thought is the gap is wide. So that would be mine, 5 years in, it's like, we're still building.
Yeah.
And seeing actually the most growth, I would say,
within the last
month and this last year.
Yeah.
So yeah, give it time.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Time, I had no idea how much time it would take. You put it out there and you think, oh, it's going to be great. And then like 200 people watch it and you're like, oh no. So time. And then the second thing to add on to her is you really have to do something that you love, because you are in the trenches. You're working really hard for long hours. You're waking up early, you're editing, you put your son or daughter or whoever to sleep, and then you go to work. So you have to love what you're doing, or else you're not gonna stay in the game. That's, and also resilience. I think you have to have some sort of level of resilience that's like innately in your core to keep you going, because it's up and down. Yeah.
I could not agree with that stuff more. You guys are exactly right. It takes patience. It takes a support system from the people around you to allow you to do it and dedicate the time that you're going to put into it. You're going to make a lot less money than you think you are. I know when I tell people that, part of my business is I do YouTuber, or my daughter loves going to school and telling her friends that her daddy's a YouTuber or a YouTube creator. That's the cool thing to do, right? But the thing about it is that it is a lot of work, and doing these videos every day and every week and keeping up with all the trends and AI and whatever it may be is a big deal, and it's hard to do. And you guys are navigating those waters really well. So I really appreciate the time you've given me today. Bryan, Amanda, you guys are amazing. Go check out Mayta the Bear if you're listening to this, if you haven't already, and we'll talk to you guys next time.
Thanks,
All right.
Dusty.
Thank
Bye.
you.